This is Cashflow Ninja, episode 191, with John Bogdasarian.
Welcome to the Cashflow Ninja, the podcast empowering and inspiring people to discover how to generate their own income and manage, grow, and protect their own wealth in the new economy. Now, here is your host, MC Laubscher.
Hello Cashflow Ninjas, MC Laubscher here, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Ninja. I have a great show for you today, and in today's show, we're going to look at how to do the work once and get paid forever. My guest in today's episode is John Bogdasarian. John sets the strategic direction for the Promanus Group's investment portfolio. He structures the financial terms of all real estate acquisitions. He's available to all Promanus investors and oversees all major decisions. John started Promanus with 9 initial investors and has strategically guided the firm to serving more than 300 investors today. He prides himself on operating the company as a close-knit boutique firm that creates substantial value for its member investors. Investing in a broad real estate portfolio has taught John the skills needed to achieve his goal of creating value for tenants and investors. Promanus currently has ownership in multiple entities with more than 2 million square feet of industrial, warehouse, and distribution space, as well as over 1 million square feet of office space. A graduate of the University of Arizona, John started his real estate career in 1996, working in residential sales. He quickly became a top-selling agent in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He soon shifted his focus to commercial transactions and obtained his Certified Commercial Investment Member designation in 1999. Certified Commercial Investment Member designees are recognized as leading experts in commercial real estate, and only 5 to 10% of commercial investment professionals have obtained this designation. Please share your feedback and thoughts on today's interview. You can let me know your thoughts on Twitter by tweeting me at MC Laubscher or by email at info@cashflowninja.com. And please remember to join our mailing list by signing up at cashflowninja.com or texting Cashflow Ninja to 44222. To ensure that you never miss one of our episodes, you can download our free interactive smartphone apps on the Apple and Google Play app stores. You can support the show by becoming a patron on Patreon for $10 a month, and when you do become a patron, you get access to our private Facebook page where previous guests connect with listeners, and you get to access a community of people that are on the same journey as you are, where you can network, share information and ideas, and possibly find a partner for your next business and deal. When you do become a patron, I will also send you a Cashflow Ninja t-shirt. You can become a patron at cashflowninja.com/support. My friend Dave Zook says you can be conventional or you can be wealthy, but you need to pick one. At The Real Asset Investor, Dave and his company create value for investors looking for higher yield returns from real estate ventures, domestically and internationally. To learn more about the exciting investment opportunities The Real Asset Investor offers, such as the syndication opportunity at Mahogany Bay Village in Belize, or investment opportunities in the multifamily space in the U.S., visit cashflowninja.com/real asset investor. Gelt Inc. is a multifamily syndicator which has acquired over 6,700 apartment units valued at over $1 billion through a private equity syndication model. Gelt provides its investors with significant cash-on-cash returns while maintaining and enhancing equity invested for the long term. You can reach out to Josh Satin at josh@geltinc.com to learn more. Have you read Rich Dad Poor Dad? Are you interested in real estate investing and don't know where to start and how to get the results you want? For valuable information to get you started, visit JoinOps Properties at joinopsproperties.com. If you want to create an income stream of 8% on your cash or money in your self-directed IRAs within 90 days in real estate without finding the property, fixing it up, finding a tenant, and all the other management headaches, you have to watch the private lending presentation at cashflowninja.com/ Private lending. The wealthiest investors on the planet know how to capture their wealth and leverage it to perpetually grow it. If you're interested in learning the premier strategies of the wealthiest individuals and families on the planet, you can access your free webinar at cashflowninja.com/be-the-bank. John, welcome to the show.
MC, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Can you please share a little bit about your background and journey with my listeners?
Yeah. So I started out in, I don't know where you want to start, but basically post-college, working in restaurants, thinking maybe I wanted to be in the restaurant industry. Pretty quickly realized that wasn't for me, and got a job selling condominiums in a golf course community. I was the on-site sales person that drove people around in a golf cart, and very quickly began selling these things faster than the builder could build them. And from there got my real estate license, and then started working on a plan that I had actually written out for myself in high school, trying to buy single family homes and basically go after this philosophy of doing the work once and getting paid forever, which was sort of something that I don't know where I got that from, but it was way back in probably the 80s that I wrote that down somewhere. And then somewhere in the 90s started working on it. And by about 98, I had about 20 single family homes. I think I was around 28 or 29 years old. And it's just grown from there, from being a broker all the way to now just running a private equity company and trying to create wealth for other people.
Oh, fantastic. And I love that philosophy. I love it. That's what we try to do too. You work extremely hard to build that asset and have that asset keep paying you for the rest of your life while you go on to to create other assets. So love that. And that was back in the 80s now, and you had written down real estate, which is really, really interesting at that stage already in high school. What attracted you to the investment class, and what do you still love about this asset class?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know where I got it from, but somewhere at an early age, I wasn't very much of a student. I wasn't capable of paying attention in class. I didn't really know what ADD was. So, I was pretty much labeled lazy, wouldn't apply myself, disruptive in class, things like that. And so I was more of a vocational learner. I had to do things. And I just kind of I was pretty good at math. And I somewhere along the way figured out, hey, if I just owned 10 houses free and clear, and they, I could pull $1,000 a month after expenses off of them, I'd have 10 grand a month, and I'd never have to work, and I could be as lazy as I wanted, which I thought I was. Turns out they were just sort of mislabeling me. So I'm not really lazy. I'm just, I just work differently than other people. But this whole philosophy of doing the work once and getting paid forever doesn't really just apply to an asset like buying an apartment complex, let's say, or investing money. It applies to getting a skill set. So really very early on, what I wanted to learn was I wanted to learn how to sell. And so I studied under some of the best mentors and the top salespeople anywhere in the world to learn the ability to ask questions, a question-based format, and develop what I call prospecting mindset, which is to just simply go out and ask for things. And it revolves around anything. It applies to anything and everything you ever wanted to get to. So, you could even look at, like, say, for instance, if you love music, you can learn an instrument and you can learn to become fluent. It may take a long time, but if you love playing music, you can do the work once. And once you've done it, you can be such a good pianist that you can entertain people for the rest of your life. I think the challenge becomes applying that philosophy to something that you truly like doing, as opposed to a conquest, like, I want to, make a pile of money, because making a pile of money at the end of the day is, okay, that's great. A lot of people may be excited about that, but it's just a pile of money. That's not a true core reason to do anything. That was a catalyst for me. I've always had financial benchmarks that I wanted to hit, and it was a carrot that I went after. But what ended up happening was, as the bigger deals closed and as I got to the point where my passive income was far exceeding my monthly expenses and I didn't really have to work anymore, it became a bit of a disappointment or a letdown, actually. And so, closing big deals became less the carrot, and it became more about helping other people and creating wealth and value for investors, as well as the people on my team that helped me. I couldn't do anything like this without all the people I've surrounded myself with that, I want them to grow and develop and learn skill sets. And so, it really has to change shape over time. But I certainly know, starting out for me, it was about trying to work my way out of a job. It was trying to basically own enough stuff so I didn't have to work. Now I realize that, has sort of morphed into something else.
Yeah, it tends to do that. And I love the philosophy too about acquiring skill sets, because we have spoken about that on this show quite a number of times, where especially in the age that we are at right now, and even before that, it's all about the skill sets that you acquire to provide value for others, and not necessarily the pieces of paper that you stick up against your wall, unless you learn skill sets while acquiring them to provide value for others. Now, staying on the topic of real estate too, and from an investment perspective, what are you looking for when you're evaluating deals, and what checklists do you use in some of your decision making when these deals come across your desk?
Well, we have a due diligence checklist that we use for existing assets when we're looking at making acquisitions. Now, we're not really making as many acquisitions anymore on existing assets today because of where we are in the real estate cycle. But to answer that more broadly, we're looking to avoid mistakes. So I know one of the themes from listening to your other shows, you tend to ask people, what's your biggest mistake or potential, failure or problem you ran into, whatever it may be. And I would say, for me, because of my sort of quick, impulsive behavior at times, especially when buying a property, I tend to move very fast. Due diligence is by far and away our most important thing that we focus on, and that's just trying to quantify anything and everything, starting from macro all the way to micro, or macro to Main Street, as people like to say. And so a team of people, that's not just me, that's my CPA and CFO, Eric, and my director of operations, Brad, and my lead asset manager, Anthony. And, so there's a whole group of people that are looking at, various facets of a development deal, if we're looking at ground up or an acquisition. And that's, I think, to me, the most important thing is avoiding those mistakes, because those mistakes aren't necessarily catastrophic. I've done some deals that weren't, they weren't going to meet projections. As a matter of fact, the worst deal I ever did, I bought in 2007, and it probably was going to fall flat on its face. For the first 2 years, I couldn't distribute cash flow, and I had projected to my investors a 6% cash on cash return for 10 years, and then a good hit when we sold it at the end of 10 years. And for those first 2 years, because I didn't conduct enough due diligence up front, I realized I overpaid for it, and I had a lot of bad tenants in the apartment complex, and it cost me a lot of time. And time is my most precious asset. I mean, it is for all of us, right? We can always make more money, but we can't make more time. So avoiding mistakes saves a lot of time. And in that particular asset, and this is what I like most about real estate and why it's my kind of area, I don't deviate from, because we can fix it. I could go in there, replace the property manager, evict the crummy tenants, roll my sleeves up, get new tenants in, rehab the units that needed to be rehabbed, fix the problems. I didn't have to ask anybody to put more money in. I've never made a capital call, on any of my deals. And then after a couple of years, everyone was patient. Nobody was, griping. The market had imploded. So half these people that were invested had lost 40% of their stock market portfolio. So they were thrilled with the fact that they hadn't lost their money in my real estate deal. And so, after that, we started cash flowing very, very nicely. And we just sold that property earlier this year at about a 75% gain. Plus it cash flowed for, 8 years. And so that was turned out to be a great deal. But, again, for me, it was a real pain in the butt. And even managing it for those 8 years was kind of more of a pain than I would have liked for it to have been. It wasn't a passive activity for me by any stretch, but, it worked out. And that's kind of what I like most about real estate is the ability to go in and it's not just like buying a stock and you have no control over what happens with that company or that market or what technology comes along to wipe it out. If you buy a good real estate location, you buy a good asset, yeah, you're going to run into some challenges, but you can overcome those if you're good.
Right. And the predictable income helps you too, and the control that you have over it, as you were talking about. There's risk management strategies and turnaround strategies and getting rid of bad tenants and so forth. You had mentioned market cycles, and this is extremely important and something that you've spoken about. And that you saw coming the last turnaround along the line. Can you speak about the current market cycle, how you analyze the market cycle that we're in, and how were you able to see what was coming in 2008 and 2009?
Yeah, so actually in 2006 is when I started offloading everything I could that wasn't backed by predictable income. So anything that was a development deal where I had to, sell units out. I had an office condo project at the time. I closed the last units in that, I think, towards the end of 2006. I didn't know that we were going to drop off a shelf and credit markets were going to freeze. Had I saw that coming and been smart enough, I would have, done the Big Short or whatever, really smart guys did on that. I don't know. That's not my world. But what I could see is I could see that the supply of homes was exceeding the demand for them. And that was relatively easy to see. You could see in the multiple listing system, the inventory of existing homes growing. You could see prices kind of flattening. And then you could also see that like the new developments that were going on, all of their sales were basically speculators, investors putting down, 3 or 4 deposits on new homes, hoping to flip out of them before they were done. And when that started to happen, that's when I started to say, hey, this is crazy, especially the no doc, do you have a pulse? Yes, you get a loan at 103% of the value of whatever you're buying. I mean, that, the minute, if nobody has any money in their home and their home stays even or goes down in value a nickel, they're going to walk away from it. So that's a dangerous area. And so that's history. And I think I was fortunate to, kind of see that, get out of the things that weren't backed by income, keep my stuff that was, single family homes and other properties I had that were backed by predictable rental income. And then be patient. In 2009, we didn't buy anything. In 2008, I didn't do anything. And in 2009 was when we started buying existing properties, and we were even maybe a little bit early, but the numbers were just so good, and it made such good sense that we bought pretty aggressively all the way through about 2016. And it started to dry up in 2016. It just became harder to find things that fundamentally made sense on existing numbers. You now had to today you have to buy based on being able to raise rents, which, I don't want to pay someone today the value for a property that it's, what something's going to be worth in 3 years if I can raise the rents to that number, right? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Why would I give them that value today that I have to go create for the next 3 years? And I see people doing this all the time, and I'm like, you're crazy buying at a 7 cap. It's not, you have nowhere to go. And so now they could be right. I don't know. That's my philosophy. So if we can build things from the ground up and we can build them to a 10 cap, why would we go buy existing at a 7 or 8? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So now we're ground up development, and we're focused primarily on core areas where demand is exceeding supply on a consistent basis, and there are fundamentals that are backing that and reasons for that. And then we're building product types where, in good locations that are in demand essentially. And it's that, relatively simple, to be honest with you. There's so many examples in our world where you look at, like, for instance, in where I'm from, Ann Arbor, which is where Borders Bookstore was headquartered and started by the Borders family, actually, I was friends with the Borders growing up, and they built a phenomenal company, which actually was built kind of based on technology, and they came up with a kind of the first point of sale system for bookstores, and they put a lot of mom and pop bookstores out of business because they could keep, one or two books on the shelf as opposed to 10. I don't know if you remember way back when, but bookstores used to carry, 10 books on the shelf because they didn't have any way of restocking and retracking them. So they could only carry, maybe, I don't know, 300 different books, and Borders could come in the same space, carry 3,000, and then restock every night at a point of sale. And then ultimately they got wiped out by a different technology later. Of course, they had sold by then and whatever. But the point is, the Borders headquarters in Ann Arbor was vacant for a little while, but it's full again, and it's probably full at a higher lease rate than it ever was. All the Borders bookstores that I've ever seen and looked at are all full again. And so the Lord that owns that land has done just fine. But if you had owned Borders stock, it probably didn't go so well for you if you held it, to the end. And so, real estate, like what we're looking at now in the cycle, is those core infill city, downtown Ann Arbor is not going to go anywhere. Downtown Chicago is not going to go anywhere. Denver's not going to go anywhere. We're building a hotel in Denver. We've got some condo projects in Denver. We've got office buildings in Ann Arbor. I guess in short, I think we're going to be in the development cycle for the next 5 to 7 years. There's not going to be any downturn as long as you're picking kind of the correct markets where demand is going to remain consistent.
That's very, very interesting too, that now you're in the development part of it, because you can just, you can construct and develop something much more cost effectively and at a higher cap than what you can buy for. So really, really a telltale sign of where we are at. You're listening to John Bogdasarian on the Cashflow Ninja podcast. We will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Are you having a hard time finding great investment properties? Unfortunately, the best deals are rarely found locally. Successful investing begins with the right properties in the right markets. Norada Real Estate provides everything you need to invest in the best deals across the U.S. Our simple, proven system will help you create real wealth and passive monthly cash flow. Get your free copy of the ultimate guide to passive real estate investing at noradarealestate.com/guide. That's NORADA realestate.com/guide.
You're listening to John Bogdasarian on the Cashflow Ninja podcast, and now back to our interview. Now, from a company perspective, can you share a little bit with my listeners what you guys do? You've mentioned some of the projects that you guys are involved in, but maybe talk a little bit more about that and what value you provide to the marketplace and for your investors.
Yeah, I mean, overall, so I actually, hopefully we'll have my book out and done by the end of this year, this whole do the work once, get paid forever philosophy. And it's really geared towards accredited investors. The way I see our company is we're really, and in a way, we're a middleman. We're taking our experience, our knowledge, our systems, and we're allowing people to participate in the returns with us. So we syndicate deals, we have funds, we have individual one-off deals, and essentially we have, I don't know how many now, but we have thousands of potential investors on our potential investor list. And then we have, I know we were in the 300 or 400 range in terms of active investors that participate in our various deals. And what we try to do is be a platform for them so that they can participate in these things in a passive nature. They don't have to do the work we do. We do all of that. So the first and foremost, mindset is to people with money. And I think there's different people that look for different things. We certainly have conversations with investors that are looking to double their money in a year or overnight. And we say, hey, that's not what we do. We're not in that line of work. We're into protecting our wealth and growing it, at a reasonable rate for the, potential risk that's out there. So with that philosophy, we have generated very high returns for our investors, and it's worked out very well for them. And that's our core value, is making sure we do that first. So money always gets preferential treatment in my world, because most of the people that invest with me, actually all of them that started out were immediate family and friends, and virtually everyone I know is invested with me. So, first and foremost, they have to be treated fairly, and we want to create value there. Now, in addition to that, for it to be a win-win, we obviously have to build a product that makes sense, that's a good product, that's going to last, that's going to be there a long time, and it's going to serve a purpose for the community that it's being built in. We're doing a 50-unit condo project in downtown Ann Arbor right now, which is a win-win-win-win-win, because the investors will do well. It's a product type that is highly sought after, a higher-end condo in downtown Ann Arbor. There just aren't enough of them, and demand is off the charts for those. In addition to that, we're building the project on an old environmentally contaminated site where the buildings are built across a 100-year floodplain and this drainage easement that flows right into the Huron River. So there are literally, every time it rains, there's some contamination flowing down into a natural watershed. And so we're cleaning that whole problem, getting rid of these old, blighted, warehousey, ugly buildings, making that a really nice site, walkable to the core downtown Ann Arbor, and a product type that people want, increasing the tax base. When you put that project together, you just feel great about it. And that's the kind of thing we look to do. Now, I've also been involved in things where, you get a big uprising and you get neighbors, I had one project that I tried to do, and 150 neighbors came out and said, we don't want that. We don't want that in our backyard and whatever. And I said, hey, no problem. Pulled the plug and walked away. That's right. We don't want to be that guy, and or I don't want to be that guy, and we don't want to be that company. So it's got to work, and I guess we're willing to be patient and find the ones that make sense and go to the places where people want us to be. And so, and then we also have, we have office buildings that we're building, same thing. And we have, right now we're working on a 380,000 square foot industrial building. It's a build to suit for one of our existing tenants. They need some really high bay space and a bunch more stuff for a product line that they've got a contract on, and which involves the what I really like about the industrial space is you get to look at all these companies and go in and walk through and see what they're building. We have aerospace tooling companies, huge buildings, and it's just awesome to see what they're doing. And so this one, it particularly involves electric vehicles, which is they're sort of a cutting edge product line that they've taken on. I'm under a confidentiality agreement, but it's pretty cool. And I'm extremely excited if we can, build this for them and shift into that, because I'm, environmentally conscious and grew up in, Ann Arbor, and I'm of a mindset that you shouldn't create more things that ruin the planet. But I know that's a big philosophical debate for some, but it really isn't for me. I kind of feel like we should try and leave things better than we found them, if possible.
A little bit more specific on some of your offerings for your investors is that you guys put together some of these projects in a fund structure, which I found very interesting. Can you speak a little bit about why you guys put it in the fund structure and what were some of the advantages?
Yeah, so I started doing this in 2009. We made an acquisition. We put it in its own LLC, and I had about 11 members in that LLC. 2-3 months later, we made another acquisition, and I had those same 11 people participate plus 3 more people. So I had 14. Then we made another acquisition 2 months later, and one or two of the people that were in both of the first two deals were not going to participate in the third deal. One of them was my Aunt Barb, who lives out on the East Coast. So I called her up and I said, Barb, you really got to get in this third deal. It's the best one we've done so far. And she said, well, you have all my money. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, you have all my, retirement money in those first two deals. And I just about dropped the phone on the floor and had back spasms. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be responsible for someone's retirement money. And it was, my Aunt Barb, and I was kind of panicked, okay, and kind of hung up the phone. And so, my brain just stewed on that for a while. And I think I woke up at like 3 or 4 in the morning and was like, aha, I need to put these all under one roof. And then that way, if I can create a parent company and the investors participate in that, then they'll be diversified across all the acquisitions we make. So that entity is now called PF3, and that has maybe 30 different properties in it. And so my Aunt Barb, as well as 300 other people, are diversified across a huge portfolio of properties. And that allowed us to do just tons of stuff. One, it made us way more solid with the banks. We have huge reserve accounts because we pool reserves at the parent company. Two, if any one of those individual deals, doesn't work out, we can chop it off, right there and get rid of it. And, even if we have to fire sell it and just get rid of it for the debt, it doesn't really affect the whole big picture because we have so many that have surprised so high to the upside that any little hiccup we experience on the downside is virtually inconsequential to us. Although, obviously we work hard on every deal, but it just provides this massive amount of safety. And then by pooling reserves, it also creates this, we have over 10 million of cash sitting in the bank. Well, banks now, they come, they want to meet with us. They offer us CD programs that pay higher rates. They'll bend over backwards, waiving fees, doing all kinds of stuff because they want our business. Getting a loan now ceases to become a problem for me. I have banks throwing money at us left and right because they understand how we operate. So it gets us an advantage in the marketplace also, because if we find an asset and we have to pay cash for it quickly, we'll write a cash offer, we'll close in 7 days. And if I need more than let's say it's a, $12 million acquisition and all I have is 10 million in my reserve account, I'll just create a short-term loan opportunity for my members. They're used to seeing it. And I say, hey, look, I'm going to give you 1% per month while we have your money. It'll all be back within 3 months. So you'll get 1% per month for 3 months or less, but, and we have 5 million available, and boom, usually I'll have one guy that'll say, I'll take the whole 5 million, but if you want to let other people get it, that's fine. And we'll carve it up in $100,000 increments. And so we create these little opportunities where our members can, make some money, and it gives us the ability to come in and work fast, buy for cash, and then put the debt financing on after the fact. So the fund structure also has done some other things for us internally. Like if you think about it, if we have 30 different LLCs, that's 30 different updates we have to send out every month, 30 different financial statements, 30 different, tax returns to file. So now all those sub entities, while they sit by themselves and the properties are in those entities and we track them individually, they're all flow through entities, and we only file one tax return for PF3. We send one update for the whole portfolio, so it's a lot less work, which means we don't have to charge as much to manage and operate, which means more profits flow through. And since I'm the largest member, that's good for me, as well as, the other 92% ownership. I'm about 8%. So we're doing that with these development funds. We create a development fund. Right now, the one we have is called PF4. It'll have, roughly 6 or 8 different development deals in it. We'll raise 30 to 50 million. We'll place that money into these various development deals. I think we have 3 of them now, and about 3 more in the pipeline. All that money goes out in about a 1-year period of time. And then as those projects liquidate and that money comes back in, we pay it out to the members. And it doesn't roll and go forward forever. We give it back to them, and it's a little shorter time frame. PF3 sort of runs indefinitely because it pays a big monthly check and nobody really wants to get out of it. But the development deals, they're shorter time frame. we're not really doing build to hold. We're doing build to sell product right now. The next one, we might try and do build to hold. But we're just kind of focused more on things we can get in and out of, like condo projects, and just because those types of things are the first things to come in the development cycle, in my opinion. Again, it's all my point of view, but those are specifically, like people listening, if they're interested in our deals and whatever, I always say to people, look, just send us an email, shoot it to ir@promanus.com, which is, investor relations, IR, for short, just ir@promanus.com. And, we'll put you on our list and you can see what we put out, and we just keep it real simple and whatever. And we don't really care if anybody ever participates or if they just want to get on the list to learn how we do things. That's fine, whatever. We just don't want anybody on the list that we don't want to be spamming or bothering anybody, so because I can't stand that myself. So
the other thing, you talked about risk diversification. One of the philosophical and management approaches that I like too is you're constantly weeding out the garden, as you call it, and part of your funds. Can you share a little bit more information about that?
Just how we kind of take the smaller assets that maybe don't make sense anymore for us and get rid of them, that kind of thing. There's also, as you go through this process, I've been at this a while now, but I still learn stuff every day. And so occasionally we, do a deal that doesn't make sense. We bought a building in Memphis, Tennessee years ago. We're trying to unload that now. It's fine. It's, the tenant's paying the rent and we're doing okay on it, but it just doesn't make sense to have one building in Memphis, Tennessee. We can't get there easily, and it doesn't, we can't get any scale there. And so, we're always trying to click and get rid of this and get rid of that and see what's coming. It's everyone right now is talking about the next big downturn being in tool and die, for instance, and that's a big thing in Michigan. There's a lot of tool and die companies, and whether or not that happens in 4 years from now, I don't know, but we certainly keep an eye on various industry segments that we think could potentially be wiped out by the internet, or might experience a downturn. And then we just want to make sure we're solidified, we're solid, we're on solid ground whether it happens or not. So that just means our rents, we have big margins between, our rents and our mortgage payments. Or maybe we just don't have that on certain buildings, or some buildings that sit more out in a farm field and could not be repurposed very easily. We might get rid of those. That's another thing we constantly look at is, if we've got something sitting out in the farm field somewhere and it's used for a, specific purpose, it may not be that easy to repurpose that building. If you're in more towards the city core and you've got a warehouse building and, you're getting $3, $4, $5, $6 a foot in rent, and, something changes and that tenant spins out, oftentimes you can repurpose that building, put a little money into it and get $8 or $10 a foot in rent. So those are things we like to keep, things we think we can adjust. And we're just always trying to clean things up and get rid of the small stuff. I just sold all my single family homes earlier this year, actually, and they made money. They did great. They were hard to get rid of because, it's one of the first things I ever put together and did. But they just take time, and again, with time being the most precious asset, you gotta weed the stuff out that's taking your time and allocate that time and energy towards bigger things.
Right. And now it's also a good time to unload those of where we are in the market cycle, as you've mentioned earlier. John, one habit I've observed from wealthy and successful people is that they're always studying new subjects and learning new skill sets. What are you currently studying, and what skill sets are you currently learning?
Boy, I'll tell you, I have been focused lately on not only trying to delegate and build systems around me so that I can kind of free up my time to think and read, but also on trying to say no to things. So I've been buying all these books. I bought James Altucher's book on Just Say No, I think it's called, or something, but it's the wrong focus. It's like How to Say No to Suicide or something. I started reading it. I was like, no, this isn't what I mean. How do I say no to these charity events? And how do I say no to these social engagements? And how do I say no to this deal and that deal? And, you naturally, if your mindset is to try and create value for people and help people, my core philosophy right at the front of my business plan, which has been there since I was in my early 20s, is have fun and help people make money. And it's kind of in that order. And it's just that simple. It's like, I want to do something that's fun for me. I want to constantly be learning something. I want to be helping people in some way. I come from a big medical family. They're traditional type doctors. My grandfathers, my uncles, my dad, they enjoyed what they did because they enjoyed helping people. And so with that mindset, I get a call from, for instance, a little dental group right now, and there's like 4 practices in one building, and it's a dinky little, maybe $1 million building. And I'm like, but I can clean up their partnership. I've done it before. I can help them out. I can help them get their bills done. But it's very hard for me to say no to that when I know how to do it and I know how to help them. And I don't know anyone else that I can send that to that would know how to kind of fix that. So I'm training young guys in my office to do what I used to do, to see things the right way. And then hopefully I can delegate that to them. And so, honestly, what I'm trying to do is focus more on just, controlling my input, saying no to things, trying to become, I guess, somewhat less accessible, but not, I don't want to be completely inaccessible to people. I want to try and become a little less accessible so that I can really do what I should be doing, which is, guiding the ship, not, dealing with every detail.
Now, John, a core message in our show is to leave our families, communities, and the world better than we found it by passing down a mindset, values, and principles to future generations, not just money. So if you cannot pass on any money to future generations and we're only allowed to pass on 3 principles to them to build wealth and achieve happiness and success, what would they be?
Well, I would say some of the best advice I ever got was to show up, pay attention, and be on time. One of my very first mentors, a guy by the name of Don Chisholm, told me that. And he said, if you can do that, you will beat out 98% of everyone else in the world. Now, that's not really a mindset to pass on, but that's an important principle that I've tried to live by, is to just show up, pay attention, and be on time. From a mindset standpoint, what I try to drill down, I have 4 kids, and what I'm always trying to drill into them is to accept responsibility for the situation they are in. And I believe at the core, almost every successful person I have ever met in my entire life has this human nature where they accept responsibility for their situation, whatever it is. Now, if somebody, T-bones you when you're driving your car because they ran a red light and, it had nothing to do with anything you possibly could have done, there are freak accidents. I get that. But what I'm talking about is, if you don't have money, if you don't have a significant other or a spouse or a friend or friends in general or people you like around you, if you find yourself, standing in the rain waiting for a bus, that's your situation. You don't blame other people for that. You have to accept responsibility for that situation and continually ask yourself, how can I make this better? How can I, that's just a mindset that if I can pass that one thing on to my kids, they'll be fine. They will take control of their situation. I'm not saying accept responsibility for other people's situations. I'm saying accept responsibility for your own situation and then work to make it the way you want it.
John, how can my audience learn more about you, your company, and stay involved with all of the projects that you're involved with?
Well, promanas.com. Promanas rhymes with bananas. PROMANAS.com. You can always just shoot us an email, to ir@promanas.com and get on our investor list, potential investor list. I love talking to people about what I do. So, when people are seriously considering an investment with us, I always like to try and have a phone call with them at least. And, that's about it. I think I appreciate you having me on the show. I've listened to many episodes. I haven't gotten through all of them, but I've gotten through about 14 so far, and I've enjoyed every one of them. So thank you.
No, and thank you, John, and thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your journey and your knowledge with my listeners and providing so much value. This has been a blast connecting, and looking forward to meeting you in person in the future when I come up to Michigan.
Yeah, when you get up to northern Michigan or anywhere in Michigan near here, give me a call. Happy to have you.
This is MC Laubscher, the host of the Cashflow Ninja podcast. As you may know, I'm also the president and chief wealth strategist of Valhalla Wealth Financial. We help individuals, families, small businesses, entrepreneurs, and professionals build their wealth outside of Wall Street and help investors maximize the use of every dollar in their personal economy and boost their investment gains. We do this by combining the capital and investments with the financial vehicle of the wealthy according to the infinite banking concept. If you're interested to learn more about privatized banking and the infinite banking concept, you can access an exclusive webinar at cashflowninja.com/be-the-bank. Thank you for joining my guest, John Bogdasarian, and myself on the Cashflow Ninja today. If you like what you hear and appreciate what we're trying to build here at the Cashflow Ninja, please subscribe, rate, and review our show on iTunes, and share our show with family, friends, in your network. I'm always trying to learn and improve in every area of my life, so if there's any way that I can provide more value for you and serve you better, please reach out to me at info@cashflowninja.com. If you're not a subscriber to the Cashflow Ninja Gashku newsletter, you can sign up for our newsletter at cashflowninja.com or text Cashflow Ninja to 44222. You can also support the show by becoming a patron on Patreon for $10 a month, and when you do become a patron, you get access to our private Facebook page and that awesome Cashflow Ninja t-shirt. You can become a patron at cashflowninja.com/support. Geld Inc. is a multifamily owner which has acquired over 6,700 apartment units valued at over $1 billion through a private equity syndication model. Banking on the renter revolution amongst millennials and baby boomers, all-time low home ownership rates, and a major shortage of well-located apartments at affordable price points, Geld has provided its investors with consistent cash-on-cash returns while maintaining and enhancing equity invested for the long term. For more information on how to achieve sustainable yield for the long term, you can email Josh Satin at josh@geldinc.com. Smart investors know that the banks actually don't own most automatic teller machines. In fact, the opportunity for private investment provides stellar passive returns, figures in the double digits, with the added bonus that most of the income is tax-free. Who wants to walk blindly past an ATM and not cash in on that opportunity? ATM machine ownership brings you a steady stream of hands-off passive income. Dave Zook and the Real Asset Investor team have been providing opportunities for investors in this uptrending activity of ATM use. If you're an accredited investor and would like more information on how you can invest in this exclusive asset class that very few investors will ever have access to, sign up for your free webinar on how to create income streams from ATMs at cashflowninja.com/real asset investor. Jimmy Freeland and Bob Scott have been in your shoes and have used real estate investing to become financially free. They have designed a system to take any beginner to an experienced deal-making investor in the least amount of time. They offer opportunities from basic education, coaching, bridge loan investing, to turnkey investments in the cash-flowing market of St. Louis, Missouri. For more information, please visit joinupsproperties.com or call Jimmy and Bob at 314-799-2247. If you want to create an income stream of 8% on your cash or money in your self-directed IRA within 90 days in real estate without finding the property, fixing it up, finding a tenant, and all the other management headaches that comes along with it, you have to watch the private lending presentation at cashflowninja.com/private lending. The wealthiest investors on the planet know how to capture their wealth and leverage it to perpetually grow it. If you're interested in learning in the premier strategies of the wealthiest individuals and families on the planet, you can access your free webinar at cashflowninja.com/be-the-bank. That's our show for today, everyone. Until next time, live a life of passion and purpose on your terms.
You have been listening to the Cash Flow Ninja with your host, MC Laubscher, the podcast empowering and inspiring people to discover how to generate their own income and manage, grow, and protect their own wealth in the new economy. Today's show notes and resources are available on our website, cashflowninja.com. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. The information being presented and considered does not consider your particular financial objectives or situation, and it does not make personalized recommendations. This material is not intended to replace the advice of a qualified tax and legal advisor or other qualified professionals, and you should not use the information in place of a customized consultation with a licensed professional regarding your specific personal financial objective, situation, and needs. We believe the information provided is reliable, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, timeliness, or completeness. Timeliness or completeness. Timeliness or completeness. Timeliness or completeness. Timeliness or completeness.